Hello there. In this video, I want to walk through a process for how to track former employees of a company. And I'm going to do this by a property on the contact and also using association labels and also the new workflow feature where you can actually set association labels on objects. A bit of a preamble to say, I think this is a common scenario. People want to track, oh, this person's left this company. How do we deal with it? I don't think the way I'm going to go through is perfect. It's kind of okay. And I'd love to know what you do, actually. I'd love to know people's comments about how they manage this. I'll show you what we do. I'd love to improve it. But essentially where we're going to get to is a workflow that updates association labels. But let me come back here. I'm going to use Yamini as our example. Here's Yamini. She works at HubSpot, and that's their primary company. And we've added a property called employee status. Okay, it's just a simple property drop down that we've added. We have three entries. We have current employee, former employee, and generic. Generic's just what we use for marketing at, sales at, etc. Just because we like to sometimes call those out without having to do a list that says list where part of email address. And by default, it's empty, but we like to go through and actually update and say they're current or former. So I've got a blank at the moment, but let's say Yamini, let's say she leaves HubSpot, okay? Pray that never happens, but let's say she does. So I'm going to set her as former employee. I'll show you what happens, and then I'll talk you through the workflow. And you'll notice here, primary company, let's go save. Okay, now that's going to kick off a workflow. I'll refresh, and then you'll see this pop up. So now the association label is former employee, and it's also created a task. Basically, look, she's left HubSpot, please check LinkedIn and update in HubSpot. So then that gets assigned to me in this case, and then I might go and look her up, and then I'll fill in her new details. Let's say, I found she's now working for Zen. Wouldn't that be wonderful? Okay, so then I might say, okay, next. I'll replace HubSpot with the new company. Like, this is a standard process that I think most people do. And so then I can see, this is the new company she's working for, but she's a former employee here. And then I get her new details and update her email address. And then I would say, current employee, because that now means, current employee means I've updated the primary company to be correct. Okay. Whereas if I didn't know her new primary company, I would have left it at former employee. And so you can see why we have both, okay? So one is because I want to easily look at the companies associated with her and say, okay, former employee there, because I don't want to remove HubSpot because that's part of the history of where she's worked, and there might be multiple ones. And often we've had people in our database for 5-10 years in some cases through multiple businesses. We continue to work with them. We've got that full history. And now with association labels, we can do that and keep track of it. So basically, employee status, if it's current employee, that's telling us, yep, current employee with the primary company. Now, as I said, is this the best way to do it? I think it's good. It allows us, because then we can easily build lists, we can build views, and just have this employee status in the view. But then on the right-hand side, we can see past associations. Okay. Now, how does that do it? I'll just quickly jump into the workflow and just show you. This is triggered, by the way, association labels. If I was to look at contact associations, we've got this, we've added this one, former employee. It's a one-to-many against companies. But how does the workflow work? It's triggered based on that contact property. Is any a former employee? And that will enroll. And then we update this existing association labels. This is new. It's been in beta for a while, so if you're a partner, you've probably had access to it, but I think it's now publicly available. All we're doing is saying that contact associated object company, notice only if it's primary. So we don't do it against all their companies, because otherwise suddenly they're former, it's just the primary one at the moment. And we just add that association label, former employee. So that's pretty simple. I also just create a task as well, which is just simply going to say, look, a task for someone to go and check them and update their details. If we've got their LinkedIn address, we just put that in, so it makes it nice and easy for the task. And there it is. So that would get assigned and someone would go and do that. Does that make sense? a property on the contact plus a workflow that manages association labels. I think that gives us most of what we're after. Of course, if you got it wrong, and I'll set this back just as if I was resetting it, I could then remove this one that I added, and then I have to select, oh, well, actually HubSpot. So you can always undo it, and then I would actually remove that association, and then I would actually remove that association label just to get us back to where we were. So you can always undo it. This kind of only does it one way. You could perhaps create workflows that remove association labels based on new primary ones being set and all that. I haven't gone that far. This is just where I'm at. And as I said, I'm really interested in people's feedback. This is a common problem. How do we track people that have left the company and moved on? We don't want to lose all their history, but we do want to be able to report on it and build lists and views easily. Let me know your thoughts.